Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another video, and today's video is going to be all about Tammy Abraham, his season, his future at Chelsea, his contract situation. We're going to get into all of that after I got an interesting question on Twitter about Abraham that I wanted to share with you guys and answer and respond to, and then hear your thoughts on in the comments below. But before we get into today's video, I just want to ask you guys to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to never miss an upload. Got an interesting video tomorrow about Chelsea's transfer window that you don't want to miss. I'm going to be talking about all about signings, the ins, the outs of Chelsea's summer window, whenever that window is. It may be Christmas at this rate, but that's a really interesting video, so you don't want to miss out. So hit that subscribe button as we get closer to that big goal, 5k subs. So let's get into today's video and Tammy Abraham. So I got this question on Twitter earlier today, which prompted me to talk about it on camera. What do you think about some of the community's frustrations with Tammy? Is he being given enough credit for his performance this season? Tammy, at 22 years old, has scored 13 league goals. For comparison, Didier Drogba didn't score 13 league goals in 7 of his 9 seasons with Chelsea FC. That Drogba comparison is really interesting, and you know, Didier definitely struggled in his first few years at Chelsea. I think it's really interesting now looking back at, and I think I was making this comparison when we were talking about criticism of Mason Mount. You can only imagine some of the social media scrutiny and nonsense that would have been spouted if Twitter was around when Lampard and Drogba had their first seasons at Chelsea, because both of them really struggled in their first year. They didn't, you know, set the world alight, especially Didier really struggled. Even, I think it was the second season, especially then his third season at Chelsea, where he really grew into his role and became the player we all knew and adored. But just on, you know, Didier, of course, you know, even if later on in his career he didn't score a lot of goals, all of the goals he did score were vitally important. He had this amazing knack, Didier, of leaving his goals for the biggest occasions and the right moments. A knack that not many players at Chelsea, especially, you're going to see again. Just had that knack. And you know, Tammy, when in comparison, has done wonderfully well. I think he really has. And I do believe a lot of the criticism is very harsh. I think you have to look at Tammy, rather than just looking at it right now and looking at what he's done this season, which is relevant. I think you have to go back to pre-season and what were the expectations of Tammy Abraham then. There were a lot of doubts about Tammy. There was a lot of doubts about who was going to lead the line for Chelsea. We didn't know who it was going to be right up to that first game of the season at Old Trafford. I think a lot of us maybe assumed that Frank would opt for experience in Olivier Giroud, which he has later on in the season. Maybe it could have been Mitchie's time to make himself Chelsea's main striker. But Frank in that first game went with Tammy. And I think what you have to look at is, you know, being given that number 9 shirt, which has got that, you know, curse, mythical curse around it. All of the struggles and strains of Chelsea strikers recently, especially since Costa left, of replacing those goals. And Tammy had a lot of pressure on him, and he didn't start particularly well. You know, he did struggle. You know, he hit the post in the first game, which was unlucky. And then, of course, had that penalty miss in the Super Cup, which could have broken some players, especially young players, under so much scrutiny. But I think the character of Tammy Abraham really came through in that situation. The strength and confidence and belief from Tammy came through in that situation. Of course, he dealt with that vile racist abuse on social media. But I think, once again, the response he gave to that situation, I think, was incredible for such a young player to respond like that. You know, I'm the same age as Tammy, and thinking about dealing with all of that pressure and scrutiny and criticism and eyes on you at that early stage, you know, I think that was another thing that I think he's dealt with so supremely well. And I think the vital factor in Tammy's maybe confidence and belief this season is Frank Lampard, because Frank believed in him. You know, Romelu Lukaku had the same situation under Jose Mourinho, where he missed the penalty in the Super Cup and we lost the game because of it. And then he was sent on loan and never played for Chelsea again. But Frank put his faith in Tammy and gave him starts. And once he gave him starts, he took his chance and he scored some incredible goals. You know, I think the game at Norwich, where he scored 2 brilliant goals. The game at Wolves, I think, will probably this season be his best game this season. I think all of his performance that day, especially the third goal, the way he turned and shrugged off Conor Cody, and the skill of that goal, I think really shows you Tammy at his best and what Tammy can become that day. His anticipation, all 3 of the goals were different. You know, I think all of those goals really epitomise the best things in a striker. And I like the fact that Tammy's variety of goals this season, I think that's a really key point to make that he does score a lot of different goals. And I think, you know, whether it's a poacher's goal or whether it's a goal he makes for himself, I think there has been criticism. And, you know, as I said before, social media scrutiny is incredible nowadays for players. And Mason Mount has dealt with similar. I think you just have to look at it from a reasonable perspective and look at his age and expect what were the expectations in the summer. I expected 15 goals. My prediction was 15 goals. And people even then were telling me I was being ridiculous for saying he could score 15 goals in his first season as Chelsea striker. And he's done that. He's done that. And I think that's really impressive. I think his goals have dried up, of course. And I think there's a variety of reasons. Maybe fatigue, playing so many games, and the struggles of being a Premier League striker. Of course, he's had to deal with injury problems as well. I think that's what people are forgetting, that that's obviously going to impact a player's game. And Frank has opted for Giroud's experience, which has been valuable, which I think a lot of us maybe felt could be more valuable in periods of the season. With young players, you know, there's a lot of, especially with English players who are young players as well, there's a lot of belief that fans give them a lot of leeway and will just sort of excuse any wrongdoings in their game and won't criticise them. I think there is a similar, like a reverse effect there. I think actually some people are really harsh on the likes of Mason and Tammy, rather than maybe older players. I think I've seen that in the ground, you know, people being really harsh on Tammy. And there are elements of his game that are frustrating, you know. I think anticipation going across the box, and especially with Reece James now, what a absolute, you know, weapon that can be moving forward for Chelsea. Those crosses, I remember the game against Leicester, Tammy could have had a hatful that day, you know, he really could have. And I think that's something he needs to work on. But you need to remember his age and this being his first season. It's all about growing that chemistry, learning when to make a run, when not to, being in the right place at the right time. I think the good thing for Tammy is he is getting into good positions. It's just about that clinical edge. And, you know, I look at a player, of course, different position, but Raheem Sterling, you know, he had that a lot early on in his career. He would miss a lot of chances. He'd get into the right positions in his career and would always seem to find himself in front of goal, but just that clinical edge was missing. And then Sterling added that to his game, and he's become the incredible player he is, and now he's bagging 25 goals a season for Manchester City. Tammy, as a striker, it's a little bit different. You know, he's not coming in from a wider area, but finding that anticipation and being a little bit more clinical and knowing when to make runs across the box and maybe growing that chemistry with Reece James, a player like that. And, you know, when Ziyech comes in a delivery, he could provide for Tammy Abraham, I think would be incredible. And I just want to end this on his contract situation, because I think his contract has come up with criticism as well. Apparently, he's demanding about 180 grand a week, so matching Callum Hudson-Odoi's wage. I think he deserves it, and I believe Chelsea do need to back Tammy here. You can't let goals like that just walk out the door. I don't believe you can, and I think Tammy, if he does leave, I think has every ability to, and there is every chance he could go somewhere else, a rival of Chelsea, and turn into an incredible striker, and everyone turns around and goes, why did Chelsea let him go? I think Frank wants to back him as Chelsea's main striker. I think the club surely see the talent they have here with Tammy, and he can potentially turn into a 20-goal season striker. He could still end the season, whenever it does end, with 20 goals, and that would match Diego Costa's first season in a Chelsea shirt. And Diego Costa, in his first season as Chelsea's main striker, was incredible, and I think we all agree with that. So if he matches Costa's first season, I don't know how you could complain at that and sniff at that, especially with a player who's nearly coming into the prime of his career. You know, he's not even there yet. He's still growing. He's still learning. He's still adapting. He's going to have those growing pains like every young player does. You know, you can't expect him to be a Kylian Mbappe or a Haaland. You know, those are anomalies. Those aren't the norm with young players, especially young strikers. And you're paying Tammy Abraham to score goals. Well, he scored goals this season. Yes, he probably could have scored more, but with all the preseason expectations, the weight of the number 9 shirt at Chelsea, he's done incredibly well, and he's done better than a lot of older strikers who've come in at Chelsea with huge expectation and have flopped. So I think you have to give Tammy that credit, and I think we have to back him. And I think a new contract is essential. Bringing in another striker, whether that's a Dembele in the summer, to challenge Tammy, I think Tammy would be up for that challenge. I think he's got the character and the strength to deal with that and prove himself again, because I think he's already done it this season. Yes, he's not the finished article, but is any player at 22 years old. And, you know, Drogba is maybe a good comparison of looking at later on in his career when he was a little bit older. You get into those prime years of your career and you start scoring important goals. So let's hope Tammy, if he can emulate anything similar to Didier, I'm not putting pressure on him to do that because Didier is an icon, but, you know, even a Costa level of goals we'll be smiling, we'll be laughing actually if Tammy can deliver that in the coming years for Chelsea. So those are my opinions on Tammy Abraham. So that is it for this video. I'm really intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below on everything I've discussed with Tammy Abraham. I'm sure there'll be differing opinions. I do believe that Chelsea do need to strengthen in that area and bring in another striker to compete with Tammy, but I think and I believe Tammy can be Chelsea's main striker going forward. And I think he's proved that this year. So let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell to never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea. And I'll see you again.